Joe, I'm an alcoholic. I fall, I get up. I've been wearing this boot for about a year as a result of an infection and losing a toe. And without the toe, your foot just doesn't stay flat. So I trip or fall or stumble over. If it's any place in the area, I'll find it and do that. So I was hoping to be more graceful tonight. That's why I had two people helping me up. I think Randy tripped me. Happy birthday, Randy. I've known Randy for well over 20 years, you know, when he was sitting in the back of the meeting, and I had a few years on him. This birthday is how many? 36, and I'm 37. I'll be 38 in December. September. So my life is pretty good. I saw my dear friend Shannon is here. I haven't seen Shannon. There she is over there. I haven't seen Shannon in probably a month or so. She assures me that she is a new, better, and an improved Shannon. Because of you. Yeah, and my sponsor and his wife are here, and Bonnie and Clyde, as we call them, like who they are part of our group at the Buck, and we just dearly love them. And Patrick, who drove me up from Thousand Oaks and is taking me back, and I couldn't figure out who in the hell he was. Bob got him to do this, and I thought, geez, I wonder what Bob has on him, you know. And as it turned out, I know exactly who he is, and we had a nice ride up, and we stopped by Five Guys and had a burger, which, by the way, Five Guys is the most expensive burger. You know, they must get paid $40 an hour. But anyway, that's it. I've been sober 37 years. I'm married to a woman I met in Alcoholics Anonymous, Shannon. We both have spoke at this meeting, and you know, everybody was betting we wouldn't last a week. And we've been married for over 25 years, and we've known each other for 32 or 33 years, and we're still going strong. So, you know, there's a lot to be said. It's hard just to have a friendship in Alcoholics Anonymous that lasts that long, let alone be married to someone, and that's just from working the steps and doing what you're told to be doing. You know, if it was up to me and just my behavior, it would have lasted maybe 2 weeks. You know, we have a German Shepherd as a child. His name is Brian, and he positively is an alcoholic. And we went back to meet my son, or see my son visit back in Mississippi, and I hadn't seen him for a while. And his grandson, or his son, is 22 years old, and I just seen him or met him or visited maybe 2 or 3 times in the last 15 years. And as a result of visiting like that, my wife, unbeknownst to me, said, why don't you come out to California? Because Mississippi is just it's the worst case scenario. It's exactly like you would imagine it. Green and stupid. You know, and there's a reason it's the poorest state in the thing. It's just, you know, and anyway, so my grandson didn't have a chance back there, and so she invited him to come out and live with us, and we would take care of him. And he wanted to go to nursing school at Moore Park, which is what he's doing, and he's at the top of his class. He's the number 1 person in his class. And at first I thought, geez, we're really doing him a big favor. As it turns out, he's really doing us a big favor. It's a pleasure to have him around. He is a very interesting kid. He's very opinionated. And he doesn't take any crap off either myself or my wife. I mean, he just sort of runs the thing. And my dog hates him. I don't know why. My dog doesn't like many people, but he hates Quest. His name is Flynn Quest Lubin. He's from Mississippi. And so Quest decided to tackle a friendship with this dog, and so he gets up every morning and cooks him 2 pieces of bacon and goes out there and hand feeds him a quarter of a piece of bacon at a time. And bacon will fix anything. I mean, I've heard that over and over throughout my life, and it's mended the relationship between the dog and Quest. So that's where I live, in the household I live in. Shannon is Irish. Her name is Shannon Colleen O'Sullivan Lubin, and we're sober the same amount of time. She says that 3 months that she has on me means the world, and she spends half of her life trying to convince me of that. My life is really good. It's spectacular because of Alcoholics Anonymous. I never dreamed when I got here I couldn't stop drinking or using drugs, and I was falling down, having a problem with the cops at all angles. I wound up in the Beverly Hills jail every month for something or another, and nothing serious. I wasn't killing anybody or stabbing anybody, just general obnoxious behavior in public. And I'm not above that today, but I'm old enough now that they sort of just go, well, he's old. And that's how I got here. And I met a big, tall, gray-haired Irishman, and he became my first sponsor, Donald Madden. And Donald sponsored me and did everything he could to change my behavior and get me to recognize the fact that I needed to let God start directing my life instead of Joe directing my life. And he passed away on me when I was 7 years sober. He may have taken his own life just to get rid of me, but he sponsored a lot of us in West Hollywood, and he had a big Buick station wagon, and we all went to meetings together on Friday and Saturday night. And if the station wagon wasn't full, it was one of those cars that had a rear seat that faced backwards. And so if the guy with the least amount of time had to sit in those seats and face backwards, and if it was really warm outside, he would roll the window down. So now you're breathing all the fumes through this back window as it sort of sucked everything in. And we did that for a while. And when he passed away, one of the guys that he sponsored that had a lot of time took my case on Luther Wood up in Palm Desert. And Luther and I was going to say we just couldn't get along, but the fact is I just couldn't get along with anybody. Luther was doing it right, and I just was not. And we were always at loggerheads, and and then I wound up being sponsored by his sponsor, a man named Clint Hodges, who I just absolutely fell in love with. This guy was the most spectacular human being, and I just was crazy about him. You either liked him or hated him, and I just thought he was tremendous, and he also was sort of a belligerent soul sometimes, and we got along. And then and I made a lot of progress with Luther. With Clint, I actually found God being sponsored by Clint, and people look at me and they go, "Really?" They never thought of him like that, but life was really good with Clint. And then he passed away from a disease called Crohn's disease, and from eating all the wrong stuff. He would not stop eating dairy products, and he was in the hospital on one occasion, and I had gone to see him. I think Steve Abrams, who has spoke here, and I had gone to see him, and the nurse had put a sign up on the door at bequest of his wife, Linda, that says, "Please, no ice cream." And the minute she left, he had taken the sign, reversed it with a marking pen, and put down, "More ice cream." And that's who he was, you know. And we had a lot of fun together. And I started. I wouldn't say that I started to recognize that there was a God in my life, but I certainly wasn't listening to the voice in my head trying to guide me down one path, and I always was going down my own path. And it was always getting me in trouble or getting me in some situation that I didn't want to be in, you know. And he passed away, and I had met Bob, who was sitting in the front row with his wife, and Bob was just exactly what I needed. Bob was sort of a combination of all three, you know, and very, very gentle, but you could tell that it was someone you needed to listen to, you know. And my life has been considerably different the last 5 or 6 or 7 years, and I've been going to the Buck probably 4 or 5 times a week, and all the guys that he sponsors and myself are like a little team, you know. And as Bob puts it, we take care of him and he takes care of us, and I wouldn't have that any other way. And so I run with these guys that all have more time. I'm the baby of the group at 37 years, at least I think I am, you know. And we have a really good time. And I've met some really interesting people there. Michelle is here. I remember the day she walked into Alcoholics Anonymous at the Buck. And Shannon, blonde Shannon, is here. And I remember when I first met her at the Buck. And there's a few people. And then Bonnie and Clyde, who recently have moved here from New York, you know, are sitting there. And they have just become part of our group instantly, because I guess what qualifies our group is just be a really nice person doing for others and helping others. And that seems to be the cornerstone for all of us, you know. And if I want complete rigorous honesty, I can go to my friend Mike, you know, and Mike is just so honest, it's incredibly painful sometimes. And Ray is also equally honest, but a little bit more gentle, you know. And I have an AA wife at the Buck that I pal around with. We become friends, and you know, it's a little family. It's just a little family of people all going in the same direction, and I've been allowed to be a part of that group. And it has changed my life considerably. I also have started to partake and be a part of, and that has changed my life tremendously. And I've started to pray for other things besides mag wheels, you know, and that has changed my life. I mean, I pray all throughout the day now for people that I see that need praying for or not. You know, I sort of figure that I know Bob's praying for me constantly. You know, and I'm trying to do the same thing. I mean, I try to mimic and be what all the people are that I respect, and become a part of this family. And that, to me, is what AA has done. It's taught me how to be polite, how to live, and to live in this group of people and recognize that they have a say-so, and they're equals. They're not. I'm not above or better than or worse than. We're just all sort of rowing the boat in the same direction. And we have a couple of characters at the Buck that show up missing every so often, you know, and a lot of other groups would not even worry about them, and we all go looking for them to find out what happened to them and make sure they get back there, you know, because we worry about them, you know. And it's just that kind of a group. I sponsor 5 guys, all are who's sober, with the exception of one over 20 years. And the one that I sponsor is sober now about 6 months. He had 21 and a half years. And his mom is sober almost 40 years, or maybe just 40 years. And he has a brother who is sober for a long time, and he just can't get it. He has walked away from 2 very, very lucrative professional situations just because of his drinking. And there's just something in him that will not allow him to just comply with the fact, I do not drink or use today, no matter what. And he just can't do that. And I don't understand that. That's not me. That has not been my case, nor the case of all the people that I run around with. They've all gotten sober and stuck around. And so stuff like that scares me when someone you're that close to is doing exactly what you spend your lifetime preaching to other people. We don't drink or use no matter what, even if your ass falls off. Or there's actually an acronym now for that. I forgot what it is. It's a club now. Your ass falls off club or something. We don't, or no matter what. I think it's called the no matter what club. And all the guys that I run around with are part of that. That's their belief and their thinking. And we love people that come into our group. I mean, like Bonnie and Clyde over here. They moved in from New York after going to a meeting on Wednesday night here. They took one look and they had met Bob or had talked to Bob, and Bob sold them on the case, I think, of moving to California. And that's all it took. Here they are. Now they live 2 blocks from Bob, and God, we wouldn't trade them back for anything in the world. We wouldn't allow them to leave today, because they're part of the little group that makes up the buck for not knowing what else to say it. I know not all of Alcoholics Anonymous is like that, but our little group of Alcoholics Anonymous is like that, and we receive people in, and we help people, and we help people stay, and it has become the most important thing in my life. My wife cannot believe that I have beaten a path in the cement with my car going to the buck every day, and God, it's just been the greatest thing in the world. And finding a God of my understanding, and I don't know that I understand God. I was born and raised in Beverly Hills. My father was Jewish, my mom was Catholic, and so I went to Beverly Hills Catholic School and UCLA, and Beverly Hills High School, and Villanova Prep up in Ojai. So I had that real Catholic upbringing. Anytime you get involved with the Jesuit priests, you sort of have to pay attention, because they're a real physical bunch. Everybody always says, well, they're the educational teachers. I think they're violent warmongers, but so I wound up being involved in this part of society, and I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway, it has changed my life and my view of religion, which I'm not particularly a part of or a joiner of, but the spiritual part of Alcoholics Anonymous is everything that I believe and everything that I want to be involved in. And my life has changed considerably just because I want to be a part of that. I have not been allowed to act out to such degree that people are going, I wish he would leave, or don't invite him, or something. And I have a wife who is sober as long as but she's not quite, she's very, very committed. She does not drink or use no matter what, but she does not need Alcoholics Anonymous to be like that. And I need my group to keep me on the path, and to stay strong. I'm very, very dependent upon my little group, which is about maybe 15 people, and we go to meetings together, we go to lunch together and dinner together and whatever, I mean, and we know about each other. Bob has gophers, for instance. And I have a mean German Shepherd. And life is pretty good. My life has, I've had a chance to experience stuff in Alcoholics Anonymous that I never thought I would experience or wanted. I mean, there's been 2 or 3 men, including my sponsor, who I absolutely love. I mean, I would do anything for these people that have guided me and helped me out on the path. And that was not me before I got sober. I mean, I just didn't think like that. Now I seek these people out, and my life has changed. It just is. I have everything that I ever imagined that I wanted. I have a lot of stuff that I didn't want, that I don't want to give up. I'm married, like I say, over 25 years to Shannon Colleen Sullivan Lubin, who is Irish, you might suspect, who says that I'm the troublemaker in her household. And the more I think about it, the more I look at my part, she's right. I mean, I cannot keep my mouth shut to the point where I'll let it go. I mean, I always have to have the last word, or I don't like to be challenged, without putting up a fight, and I'm fighting about nothing and for nothing. I mean, I always wind up on the bottom of the ladder doing that, We own a home, and my wife has a really good job, and we're very, very fortunate to live the way that we live. And I never expected that. I actually lived on the streets downtown LA, and lived outside for a period of time drinking, and would get in fights with people that were just waiting for me to come along, and I used to really get creamed out there a lot. And actually, I had been living in a condominium in West Hollywood, and I had gotten drunk in one of the bars up there and had gone downtown with someone to have a drink at a bar that he knew, and he left to go to another bar, and I got left downtown and couldn't find my way back to West Hollywood. So I spent the night outside and met a couple of people, and that sense of belonging that I'm talking about, I stayed down there for 4 months, living in a tri-wall carton, and I wasn't very good about begging for food. And I consider myself, I think, as Bob put it, sort of an entrepreneur. That's a nice way of saying thief or criminal. And people took care of me, and they got food for me. They were cooking on Sterno cans, and I was drinking Sterno, and I had no inclination to get out of there or to go back. And I got arrested down there for being in an altercation with somebody, and when they ran my fingerprints and stuff, they go, "Well, your name is Joe Lubin, you live in West Hollywood, and this is your address, and this is the phone number we have on record." And I said, "I don't think so." And I had forgotten completely about that. And they took me to where I lived, and I recognized this place. And I walked up, and there was a key, under the mat right where I had left it 4 months ago. The house was untouched, and I walked in and I had a stack of mail outside, bills, all the utilities had been turned off, and all these bills that hadn't been paid, and yet I had enough money in the bank at that particular moment to pay all my bills, get all my utilities turned back on. I mean, money was not an issue. I had just forgotten that this was something that I was supposed to be doing. It was a responsibility, and I just didn't do that. And I started slowly work my way back in, but living outside was something that I could have done comfortably probably until my age or illness or something had prevented me from continuing, you know. These were people just struggling like I pictured myself just struggling. My parents lived in a home in Beverly Hills, and like I say, I grew up in sort of an affluent community and had everything that a guy could want. I did not have a job at that particular time, and so when I came back and I started in the house, my dad had a business down in Watts, and I went to work for him and chased off half of his employees, and with just my belligerence and sort of domineering sort of attitude. I mean, they realized they couldn't go and complain about me, but I could certainly go and complain about them. And it led to compromising their house and their life. And my little brother, David, who is deceased now, came to work with me as well. And my sister and the Lubin kids just destroyed this $30 million a year business that was down there, you know. In the end, I was by myself with a couple of the employees, and I was taking home about a tenth of what I had taken home 2 years before, just because I was trying to run the show. You know, my customers were still hanging around because we had the merchandise to sell them, while other people did not. But one by one, they were looking around for different places to go and do business because I was just obnoxious. If I went on a business trip, I just drank from the time I got on the airplane till I got back to Los Angeles. I remember going to Montreal with two guys that were doing about 30 grand a month with me that I really valued and needed as customer, and we're walking down the streets. We all had a bottle of Cavassier, and we all got arrested and thrown in jail up there, you know, and that was my idea of a business trip, you know, a successful business trip. You know, I was bonding with these guys, and, you know, they didn't want any part of me after that, and I did that a lot. I mean, that was just what I had become. I was estranged from my brothers and sisters. My father put up with me only because he had some kind of need not to completely discard me and my mother, and that was the only reason that I had a job down there or stuck around. I mean, had I not had for that, I'd have been back down on Skid Row looking for another Tri-Wall carton. You know, I made friends. I got sober in West Hollywood, really at the Log Cabin, which, surprising to me, it's not there anymore. It's gone. And I just find that that's appalling. That place was a benchmark when I got sober. And I mean, I don't know how to say this, but as most meetings, it was cigarette butts and that got people thrown out of places like that. I mean, I'm not trying to offend anybody that's smoking, but that's just the truth, you know. And I'm a smoker, or was. You know, I got arrested one more time for inappropriate behavior with a young woman, and I actually thought I was going to go to prison for a year and do that, and, you know, pay a price for that. And my best friend, who was an attorney, kept me out of prison, and he sent me to Alcoholics Anonymous, who ruined my life. You know, and I don't know what he was thinking, but I had a key to his house, and I could come and go, and he and I were really, really close friends, and he just didn't want me around at all, you know, and that sort of woke me up a little bit. That was a shock to me that had taken place. And so I went to this meeting. I went to Dickens, right down at the bottom of Beverly Glen and Ventura Boulevard, right behind Fatburger. It was the very first meeting. And then the next meeting I went was down to the Log Cabin, and I heard Matt Johnson's dad speak, you know, and a lot of that early stuff just changed my life. I was carrying a gun to meeting, and I got thrown out of a couple of meetings for doing that. And my friend Christopher and I would go to the Brentwood Beginners meeting, and so I had stopped carrying a gun, but I was carrying a boot knife. And I don't know why. I don't know what I thought was coming down the pike, or why I thought I was going to have to protect myself where I actually needed a weapon involved. And the things that used to amuse me and entertain me is if somebody cut me off, I would just simply put a gun across the seat and point a gun at the guy, and just, you know, I just thought that was amusing, and in fact, it got me in a lot of trouble. You know, so I had to stop taking a gun out of the house. Sue's timing me over here. How am I doing on time, by the way?
A little bit more than 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. So my life has changed. I no longer behave like that. All of my brothers and sisters are now deceased. They're all younger than I am. I'm 77, and I really thought that I would be the first to go, and that I'd be taking care of them. And in fact, they all went. They died of either alcoholism or alcohol-induced things. And here I am, clean and sober. When I say clean and sober, that means nothing that affects me from the neck up. I'm not a pill popper or a painkiller popper or anything. I don't take anything, you know, and because I know myself. That stuff just scares me to death. And I've had to have surgery on this foot, and there's a metal rod that runs up from this brace that just hurts every single day. It's painful. And, you know, I'm living on scrambled eggs and Tylenol extra strength, you know, that I take twice a day. And people just take care of me. I mean, people give me rides and help me. And I fall down a lot. I mean, I'm not even embarrassed anymore. You know, it used to be you'd be just mortified, and now, you know, I told Randy, I said, just hold my arm until I get to the top of the stairs, and I fall down a lot. I mean, I just do that, and sometimes I get hurt, and sometimes not quite so hurt. But because of a wound on the bottom of my foot, I have a nurse from Kaiser in-home nursing that comes to my house once or twice a week, and I am so lucky to have all of these people in my life. I mean, I'm a Vietnam vet, and I was going to the VA for all my medical stuff, and then somebody there, some doctor there, convinced me that I probably should go to Kaiser and let Kaiser take care of me, and I did that. And it's not a plug for Kaiser, but they have taken just unbelievable care of me for about five years. So I spent a lot of time with nurses and doctors, and I'm really, frankly, very tired of it. And they have a new boot coming for me, and hopefully all that attention will come to an end in the next month or two, because I hope I don't go to the end wearing this boot. I'd hate to be, start being cremated and have all the parts of this thing spitting out into the air. You know. But I told my wife I do want to be cremated with a big book, because God knows I could have spent a lot more time, reading it, understanding it, and applying it to my life. And maybe if I had nothing else to do, I would do that. I also want my cell phone with me. I'm one of those people that has just become addicted to being in contact, I don't know how many people that Bob sponsors now, but I don't know of anybody that calls him more than once a day. Do you? Are there people like me? 3 or 4 others? But I'm number one. Oh, yeah. I call him every day at 8 o'clock, no matter what time he's been out at night, even when I know he's going to be on the golf course at 8:03. I'm a golf widow, by the way. Life is fun. Most of my life is actually pretty fun and pretty amusing when I put myself in proper perspective to it. If it's not all about me, I'm generally having a pretty good time. God has really been looking after me the last 25 years or 30 years, Shannon and I met at an AA meeting. She was a greeter. She had about 2 months more than I. And she greeted me into a meeting that used to be in the Midway Hospital down in West LA. I've got 10 minutes. I've only got 2 minutes left to talk. Oh. Well, I want my 10 minutes. So she met me at the door and she said, "Hi, I'm Shannon. Welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous." And she goes, "Would you like to go out and have dinner? Buy me dinner afterwards." That's how I met Shannon. So I took her out to go have dinner. That's when the Hamburger Hamlets were still going. We went to the Hamburger Hamlet and had dinner. And we've been together almost ever since, even though I got married once for 3 years, and she moved away with a guy who was a junkie for 3 years. When Donald Madden died, we were both sitting in the front row at his service, and I realized that, that's who I was supposed to be with. And we decided how to put that together, and we did, and we've been together ever since. Good times, bad times, sometimes quiet and peaceful, sometimes not so quiet and peaceful. But we have a good time. And Shannon has always wanted to have a child, and we couldn't have a child together, but now we have Quest that lives in our household. And I think we both consider him our son today. I mean, he's certainly a way for me doing it better than I did with my son, who is 50 years old today, running this Harley-Davidson dealership. And it's drawn he and I a lot closer together now that I'm looking after his son. And life is pretty good. I've watched a lot of people die in here as a result of doing it their way to the extreme. Some by their own hand, most of it behind drugs and alcohol, And I've watched people hang themselves and jump off of buildings and walk out in front of cars and all kinds of just, killing the wrong person. And I have certainly taken some of those lessons and taken them to heart. If you stick around here and you do what little is asked of you, it used to seem like an insurmountable task, to read a chapter in the big book and go to 2 meetings a week and get a court card signed. And, my life has changed just because of all those little things that I did in the beginning, and the people that I met in the beginning, and the ones that are still with us like that continually to help me, and they're there for me. And just one example really, and then I'll quit. I became very, very good friends with a gay guy in West Hollywood named Wayne, and he was he was a character. He was a character, and I just really liked him. He had a throat operation, so he spoke like this. And I used to tease him constantly. I mean, we just, all the time, but we remained friends for 30 years, and we saw each other once a week. Then we rode motorcycles together and went to meetings all over the place together. And he died about 2 months ago. And they called me up from the coroner's office downtown Los Angeles, and they said, "There's an envelope here from you from Mr. Wayne James." And as it turned out, it was his last will and testament. He had left me $38,000 and two cars that apparently he had put into motion about 10 years ago. I mean, he had intended to do this a long time ago, and those kinds of friends, people that were looking after me even when I didn't need looking after or solicited anything, and I hold people like that dear in my heart. He's the roof I have on my house, so every time I don't get rained on, I thank Wayne. And just a lot of things. I mean, like I say, I wouldn't trade anything for Bob, and along with Bob came Sue, who is just one of the sweetest, kindest people on this earth, and she sort of looks after all of us guys. I mean, we all will do anything for Sue, because you don't cross Sue. You don't want to get you don't want to wind up on a shit list someplace. So Bob's out playing golf, and we can call Sue for advice. Sue, how much time do you have? 47 years, so it's not like she doesn't know what's going on, and I'm sure she knows what's going on with all of us guys, and we're a motley crew. I don't know how we all stay together. That's the truth. If they were all sitting in the first two rows, they're the kind of people that your other people's sponsors are going to go, you know what, why don't you stay away from the guys in the first two rows? It'll just be a problem, trust us. And it hasn't been. You know what? We go and we play and we laugh, and we go to Marie Callender's. We support Marie Callender's. And that's about all I really have to say. And I want to thank Randy so much for asking me to speak. This is the second time here in about 3 years. And Shannon has spoke here, and my really dear friend Steve Abrams, who I think a lot of you know, has spoke here, and I think Bob has spoke here recently. I mean, so, we just keep throwing each other under the bus, and we will continue. So thank you very much.